What's up, YouTube? It's Brian here from Team Board Wipe. Here with a deck profile for the last two tournaments I went to. I got 6th place at the Wisconsin Regional the weekend before this past YCS, and then I went to Salt Lake City and I got top 32. I went 8-2 in Swiss, and I lost in top 32 to a very, very stupid mistake. 100% should have been in top 16, maybe even further than that, but I made one detrimental mistake all weekend, and it cost me top 32. But I'm stoked about my first YCS top. I've been having a lot of success at regionals this year, and it feels good to bring that success to a premier event. So going forward, going to Memphis and possibly New Jersey, hopefully I can keep it going. I played Pendulum FTK for both of these events, and everything was pretty much the same except for a couple side cards I switched for Salt Lake City. So I'll go over the deck and give some shout outs, and then in the comments you guys can let me know your thoughts, how much you hate me for playing a degenerate FTK because you think I'm immoral or whatever. But it's a good deck, so here we are. Alright, getting into it, we got 3 Harmonizing Magician, 3 Black Fang, and 3 Purple Poison. All the Dark Magicians, obviously, because you need the Dark Monsters for the Starving Venom. Then 3 Astro and 3 Chrono with Stargazer and Time Gazer. Everything in here is pretty standard, I think. 3 Dark Worm, 2 Gate 0, 1 Infinity. You need Infinity to search for the instant fusion when you got both of these in your scale. Dark Worm is an amazing card. Some people play 2 and I don't know why. That's it for the monsters. No hand traps because hand traps don't FTK. 3 Desires and 2 Allure. Some people played this differently. I was talking to Jesse Cotton after our match because he was one of my losses in Swiss, and I think he played it backwards because you can resolve multiple Allure in a turn, and it's less bricky to draw 2 Allure than it is 2 Desires. The reason I play 3 Desires and 2 Allure is because Desires is a +1 and Allure is not. So, like, you draw a Desires off of Desires, you're still in the same spot that you were if you activate 2 Allure. You still have the same number of cards. So that's why I played Desires over Allure. I don't know if it's correct, but it was working pretty well for me all weekend. The deck drew insane. I only bricked a few times. Yeah, I drew really well. I lost most of my die rolls and still did well going second. So I liked this ratio a lot. I can understand flipping it to 3 and 2, but this worked for me both tournaments. And then we played the Duelist Alliance package. So 2 Duelist Alliance, 1 Pendulum Paradox, 2 Pendulum Call, and then I played 1 Star Pendulum Graph, mostly because I couldn't decide on a 40th card. My build is actually, the main deck is identical to the one that I think got top 16 at YCS Atlanta, with the exception of this and Monster Reborn. I took out Monster Reborn because I didn't like it, and I put this instead. It was okay. I don't think I ever searched it with Duelist Alliance unless I already drew Pendulum Call and Paradox wasn't going to be able to resolve very easily. Because if you link for Electromite with a Magician, it just replaces itself with Star Pendulum Graph. So it's like a free Harmonizing Magician. So in theory, I thought it was like okay. And in the tournament, it was okay. I just couldn't decide on a 40th card. And you can't play Upstart because then you can't burn them. You can't burn them for 9,000. You can only do 85. So I played Star Pendulum Graph because it's a Duelist Alliance target, and it was fine. Maybe there could have been a better card, but I didn't come up with one in time for the tournaments. So I played that, and it was okay. Then I played 2 Shrine and 1 Foolish, just because Dark Worm in the graveyard is such an important starter that even if you drew like both of these, you can still do some stuff with Black Fang if you don't have Pendulum Call. So you can Shrine Dark Worm and then Foolish Spellcaster. And then if you don't use Pendulum Call, you can use Electromite to pop Black Fang and do Astrograph stuff, and then also use Black Fang to summon what you Foolish. So it ends up being okay. And if you draw 2 Dragon Shrine, like the plus off Dark Worm is enough to make up for it, for the dead card in your hand. So I played 2 Shrine, 1 Foolish, and it worked really well. And then of course 3 Instant Fusion. I played. Some people were doing like 2 Infinity and 1 Instant Fusion because they didn't want to draw 2. Drawing 2 going first, it kind of sucks unless one of those cards you also draw as Pendulum Call. Because I played 2 Duelist Alliance, 2 Pendulum Call, like, drawing 2 Instant Fusion wasn't the worst thing in the world for me, because I just changed it to a Magician, or something. Or if I had a Dark Worm in hand, then this didn't matter if I had a dead card, because I had so much advantage otherwise, as long as they didn't have a hand trap. So, and hard drawing 1 Instant Fusion is almost always, like, a guaranteed win. It's insane. Starving Venom is an unfair card, especially since Lyrilusk is a thing. So that's the main deck. Not the most original thing in the world, but it's a really strong deck, and I enjoyed playing it. The extra is a little bit different than some of the other builds I've seen. 1 Baguska and 1 Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion for the rank 4s. Baguska was good. I think Baguska is a necessary card, just because if you don't open the FTK, or if they have a hand trap, you can, like, sit on a Baguska and just kill them next turn. I did that multiple times throughout the tournament. If I couldn't resolve the FTK, I'd just make Baguska, and then they'd have to do awkward plays to out it, or they couldn't out it, and then they were just making unideal plays, and then I won. So Baguska is a really strong card, and I think it's a necessary, even though it, like, doesn't really, like, do anything. You just have to play it. Dark Rebellion is a card that I've been a huge fan of for a very long time. It just steals games that you're probably not supposed to win sometimes. But I didn't summon it once at Salt Lake City for the YCS. I might have for the regional once or twice, but, like, for the past 2 weekends, it just hasn't really come up, and I would definitely change it to something more relevant. I'm not sure what at this point, but there are definitely other cards I could have played that would have made more of an impact than this did over the past 2 weekends. The other Xyz monsters were Absolute and Harbinger, because if you don't hit the FTK, you want to be able to make boards with negates. So if you don't get to Instant Fusion, then you can still do the Starving Venoms to copy Electromite, and loop Astrographs to summon 2 Starving Venoms to make Harbinger, and then a rank 7 and link into Metaltron to summon the Vortex Dragon. So you still have to play these, because the FTK isn't always guaranteed. You have to have a board you have to be able to put out negates if you need to. So that's it for the Xyz monsters. For the links, 2 Electromite. You don't need 3. You don't have space for 3 in this deck, and you're not, like, turboing Electromite. You only really need to make 2 if they ogre the first one. And it's really easy to, like, FTK through an ogre on Electromite, as long as you have Astro or Chrono. If one of your first 5 is Astro or Chrono, sometimes ogre and Electromite doesn't even matter, especially if it's Astro. Because if it's Astro, you just don't use its effect on summon, and then if they ogre its other effect, then you just make another Electromite, because you had an Astrograph and you can still generate advantage. So ogreing this for the FTK isn't very, like, detrimental, which is why some players were ogreing Starving Venom, but I came up with a solution for that also. But the other Link monsters I played were Metaltron and Link Karibo. Didn't need Decode Talker, because Metaltron is better, it doesn't have an arrow, and Metaltron's effect is actually really relevant. It's how you play through Ogre on the Starving Venom. And then Link Karibo is really good going second, unless you make mistakes like I did. I lost in my top 32 match because I instant fusion for the Lyrilusk, the one that does 500 burn. So obviously I'm playing the FTK, so you have to play it. And I instant fusioned it in a Pendulum Mirror match without being able to kill him that turn. And then I linked into Link Karibo, because I figured he had Scales, 2 Jackals in his extra deck, and no cards in hand. So I figured that if I made a Link Karibo, I could stop him from, like, doing something weird. And I activated Instant Fusion for no reason. And I actually gave him his only win condition. In Game 3, after he had gone first, he opened up an ideal hand. He just Pendulum summoned 2 Jackal Kings. And I had Purple Poison Astrograph, so I was able to out those without actually using the spell card. He had D-Barrier for main phase 2, so I couldn't kill him in main phase 2 with Starving Venom's copy effects for this. But I activated Instant Fusion anyway because I'm a moron. And I gave him his only win condition because he made his own Starving Venom, copied this, burned me for 4,000, then attacked over me for game. And I was really bitter. It's one of the... It's the biggest mistake I made all weekend. The only one that actually was like detrimental and cost me a game, but it was for the match in top 32, and it was kind of heartbreaking, actually. But I mean, you live and learn. It happens. Won't ever summon this card against the Pendulum Mirror when I can't kill them, because then they'll just kill me instead. It was a good lesson to learn, because it was an interaction that I'd thought about before, but in the moment I didn't think of it, because for some reason I had thought that the game was already won for me, and it wasn't. But other fusion monsters I played were Thousand Eyes Restrict, and then Odd Eyes Vortex. This is good for creating negates when you go first and don't draw the FTK. And Thousand Eyes Restrict is an amazing card going second, because people don't negate instant fusion when they have a board of negates. I think when I was going second against Pendulums, if I ever activated instant fusion, it never got negated, which means I summoned Thousand Eyes and they'd have to negate it with Vortex, or if they let it through, whatever, I'd link it into Link Karibo, and then you can like Black Fang it back and then steal more of their stuff. You can Starving Venom copy it. I resolved this effect 3 times in a turn at the regional because of Starving Venom, and once at the YCS too. It's just amazing at breaking boards. It's a really good card for going second. And nobody negates instant fusion for some reason. So this card just is insane. And then, yeah, the negates. And then at a couple weeks ago when I won the Des Moines OTS with this deck, I played 2 Starving Venoms. And I ran into the problem where somebody ogred this effect when I activated the effect to copy the Lyrilusk, and somebody ghost ogred it. And I was like, crap, I can't FTK them. And I had a chronograph in my hand, and it was under a Metal Charm. And so I was thinking about the idea, and then one of my friends on the way, who came with me to the Wisconsin Regional, Ben Dieter from Des Moines, told me, he was like, play 3 Starving Venom. So that's what I did at the Regional, and that's what I did at the YCS, and it came up a bunch. I actually like FTK'd people through Ogre multiple times when they ogred this, because I had a 3rd Starving Venom, and you can play around it by using Chronograph in hand and Metaltron's effect. So when a monster that was special summoned to this is destroyed by battle or card effects, if it's pointed to summoned from the extra deck, if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, add 1 monster from graveyard or face the Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. So like, it's just an amazing card. You can add cards back, and if you have a Chrono in your hand, you can just special summon the Chrono off this destruction if you summon 5 Pendulum monsters, and then you just make another one, and then you burn them. So when people ogred this, if you can like add Astro or Chrono in hand, it doesn't actually matter which one. You can make a 3rd one, and you can still FTK them through Ogre. And a lot of people would, if they saw that you were playing the FTK, they would hold Ogre for this, not expecting a 3rd Starving Venom, and then you just kill them anyway. That happened a couple times at the YCS. It was really strong. And then I played 1 Synchro. I didn't play Omega. I played Supreme King Dragon Clearwing because it's an amazing Synchro. It's a board wipe when you need it. It's got a good battle effect. It destroys a monster, and then I believe it inflicts damage equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. So yeah, if you have trouble getting over a card, it doesn't really matter. You can just attack into it and destroy anything. It's non-targeting destruction. It's really good. I didn't feel the need for Omega or Ignister. I took out Ignister. I was debating between Ignister and Borreload, and I ended up putting in the 3rd Starving Venom instead of that. And it was really relevant. Playing 3 Starving Venom is how I resolved Thousand Eyes effects 3 times in 1 turn at the regional. For the side deck, for the YCS, I played 2 Denkos, 2 Rebel King, 2 Sphere Mode, 2 Droll, 2 Kaijus, the big Kaijus, the 3000 and then the 3300 for the monsters. Then I played 2 Cyclone, 2 D-Berry, and a Pendulum Hole. I'm not sure about this card and these cards. The Drolls and the Pendulum Hole, I don't really know. So my theory, which again came from doing a lot of discussion with Ben Dieter, was that you want to, like, I wanted to try and limit my side deck to cards that were good if I drew them for turn as the 6th card. So, like, the Kaijus can be the 6th card. The Sphere Mode can be the 6th card. The Denkos can be the 6th card. The Cyclones can be the 6th card. For the going second cards, obviously, not the going first cards. The only cards that couldn't be the 6th card would be Droll and the Rebel King. So, like, and even the Rebel King for Trick Stars could be the 6th card, just not for the FTK. And the Drolls couldn't be the 6th card for anything, because it wasn't very good. And these were my going first cards for Pendulums. I didn't feel the need to side for any other matchup going first, because I wasn't, like I don't know. I didn't want to lower my consistency with Call to the Grave. I didn't want to lower my FTK consistency just to try and play around hand traps when I can play through Ogre pretty easily anyway. Sometimes you can even FTK through Valor, depending on how you use Astro and Chrono. But, I mean, cherries is cherries. If somebody was going to cherries me, then I'll play around it the best I can. But I didn't want to lower the consistency of my FTK to play around one side card that not everybody was hiding. So, I played these going first for Pendulum, and these obviously going first, and sometimes second for Invoked. Because, I mean, this isn't a bad card going second for Invoked. There's a lot of times they don't do anything on the first turn. They don't make a fusion. So, like, with you getting 6 cards on your first turn, if you go second, like, I didn't feel like putting this in second was a problem. But, yeah, so the only thing that I was worried about was in the first 5 was getting this for the Pendulum FTK. I play 3 Desires and 2 Allures. So, nobody negates Allure. So, if you can, like, dig for these with Allure against the Pendulum board that's not doing the FTK, you don't need to play hand traps. You just summon that and win. So that was my logic behind that. That's why I didn't like Droll, because it didn't fit with that logic. So it was like an awkward side choice, and you just have to decide something for the FTK in the first 5. I chose this because it was also a Dark Pendulum monster, and Call to the Grave doesn't hit it, and I knew people were going to be playing it. For the regional, I didn't side these. I sided Wavering and Ghost Ogres instead. And I switched that because of my discussions with Ben and the theory about siding and what I wanted to, like, accomplish for, like, different decks. So I switched these for these, and I thought it was a really good choice. These just never came up. So that's the deck. That's what I played for the last 2 weekends. It's a lot of fun to pilot. It's a lot of fun to play. It's not a lot of fun to lose to. So I know a lot of people were pretty bitter because nobody likes losing to FTKs. But, I mean, the deck exists, so I was going to play it while it's here. Shoutouts to Team Board Wipe for talking theory with me and giving me some good ideas for cards. Shoutouts to Ben for helping me a lot with the side deck options and stuff. Shout out to my friend Hector, who let me stay with him in Utah and gave me rides to all the places I needed to be. And also shout out to my biggest fan, Izzy. She's the greatest cat in the whole entire world. She's my biggest fan. She cheers for me when I'm gone. And she knows she's being summoned, so she's stretching it out and coming on over. And I'm going to go eat some dinner because our oven is going off. Thanks, YouTube!